have my grinder up here. Damn it. Whipping it. Yo, Sam, what's good, bro? Another lovely day in the studio. You know how we do it. We try to be in the studio as much as we can, man. We try to be in here as much as humanly possible. Trying to create this art, man. Express ourselves, you know what I'm saying? Hope everybody having a good ass day. I'm having a good day. Yo, what's up, everybody? What's up? Art and design. I love that shit. I love art and design. Oh, I got a new. Got the, oh, it's reversed this way. Let me flip the camera so we can see this thing. Where's the flip? There's the flip button. Y'all see you got the new show flyer? Yo, Canvas Chronicles, a multi-series exhibition by who? Your boy, Mr. Prince. Got a new show coming up for when? December the 1st. We gonna even have some horse overs. Yeah, we in there, boy. We in there with the new. Can't tell me nothing. So I'm excited for this end of the year show. You know what I'm saying? Close the year out. We're gonna close the year out on a good note. You know what I'm saying? What a gorgeous painting on the flyer. Yeah, man. You gotta come see the real painting in person, man. Gotta see it in person. This is from the Whisper series. Been working on the Whisper series for a while. This year I decided to add a few more pieces to it, and it came out really, really good. So I'm definitely excited about showing this, and that's why I put it on my show flyer. This was the last installment of the Reader series that I produced. Like I said, it's cool, it's fun, it's bright, you know what I'm saying? Beautiful black people. Can't get enough of beautiful black people. You know what I'm saying? I like to see beautiful black people everywhere I go. So yeah, December the 1st. So I say hopefully it'll be a good show. I'm going to show, like it says, a multi-series exhibition. So I've created dozens of different series of art. Just touching on different ideas or different concepts. And so at the close of this year, I just want to show everybody a little bit of what I've worked on over the past 10 years, and all the different ideas that I touched upon, and hopefully start some good conversations, you know? So we'll see how it plays out. December is not the most best month for art because we live in the Northeast, so we get a lot of cold weather, a lot of snow. It's raining right now, so we're just hoping for the best. And I think that I think that my name resonates strong enough in the local area that people will come out for the show, even if it is cold as hell and the weather's kind of crappy. I think people will still come to check the art. So once again, we'll see. It's a couple weeks away. You know, the 1st is literally right around the corner. So I got most of everything I wanted done this past weekend. This week and this weekend, I want to actually finalize everything that I'm taking to the exhibit, and then I drop stuff off on Wednesday, next Wednesday. So it's literally we're just 1 week away from drop off. So we'll see. Today what I want to do is continue to, yo, my man G, what's good, bro? We're going to continue to block in this canvas that's currently on the easel. a part of my new series that I'm working on. Currently untitled. I'm not sure how I'm going to word the title of this series, but it's going to be something interesting for sure. It's definitely going to be something interesting. So I'm just take my time with it. No need to rush, and see how it flows, and just see where the ideas take me, and we'll just do it like that for 2024. All right. That's straight tequila. That shit just whoo. Make my scalp itch. What is this? Damn. Yeah, get that shit. Your scalp start itching. Whew. Where? Why can't I find the picture? Oh. All right, here we go. When I make that, yo, P, what's good, bro? When I make that sound when I'm smoking, that's because I'm trying not to cough. If you smoke and cough, that shit burn the hell out of your throat for a couple minutes. But if you kind of sneeze with it, don't hurt so bad. This is coming from a professional smoker here, guys. All right, so wow, I should have brought my grinder up here. This is the tits doing it this way. I want to show you the progression I've made on this next piece so far. I started blocking it in on Saturday. I think I started on Saturday. No. I started Sunday. But we've got a good bit done since then. This is just tobacco. Trust me, it's just tobacco. So we were able to get this all blocked in this weekend, and as you can see, that's dry. This is ready to start being detailed, at least the top portion, because I kind of work my way down and then over it that way. So when I do come back to work on this, I can at least start working on the sky, because all of this is nice and dry. This was the last area that I worked on, so this may still be wet like that. So it's all good though. It can be wet, but it's mostly dry, so it's getting there. So as soon as it gets dry enough, we'll put this back on the easel. Hopefully that'll dry by the time I finish blocking this in. And so this is why I try to work on more than one painting at a time, because oils dry faster than people think they do. It don't take weeks and weeks for oil paints to dry. They'll dry in a few days. But in that few day period, while your paint is drying, just start another fucking painting. Don't sit around procrastinating. So, oh, I can't work on that. It's too wet. That's why I don't like oil paints. No, 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 no. Let it alone. Let it sit there and dry and start another fucking painting. And then when you're done blocking this painting in, you can start another fucking painting. And then if you start 3 paintings at one time, when one is wet, you can rotate to this one and detail that and set it to the side and let it dry. Then you can come back to this, start detailing this, set it to the side, let it dry, and then you can stay on a rotation of creating art where you're always constantly working on something. And as soon as you get down to one painting on your easel, that's when you start prepping 2 more paintings. So as soon as I'm done with this, I already have like the next idea. So probably before I finish blocking this in, I might go ahead and just sketch up the next canvas. And once again, I can set this to the side and just jump right into the next project and keep it in rotation, bro. Keep it in rotation. You work a full-time job. You work a full-time job. How do you make so many paintings? I paint more than one painting at a time. That's how I make so many paintings. I don't just work on one painting at a time. That'll get you nowhere. Oh man, this is so cool. Look at the fucking futuristic science techie engineer in her super futuristic science lab, looking at the trajectory of incoming comets that may have a devastating impact on the Earth. So she's studying our solar system to see if there's any dangerous objects that may potentially uh, cause damage to our planet. And when she actually discovers that there may be a extinction level event object hurling towards the Earth, she reports her findings to the rest of her team. They report the findings to the higher ups, who in turn hold a council meeting on what is the course of action. How do we save as many people as possible, because this threat is imminent and we cannot avoid this thing. So our only option is to formulate contingency plans and build some sort of foundation that will allow us to rise and come back from this cataclysmic event. I know it's a lot. It's a lot, but that's what I wanted. That's the story I'm trying to tell here. Ain't that right, Puff? That's the story we're trying to tell over here. My man sending me all these funny ass comments on Messenger. So yeah, so what do you think? What do you guys think about? What do you guys think about this idea that I'm working on? You know, I've been kind of hinting at it for the past few months, but now that I'm actually, yo, Boozy, what it doozy? What's good, my man? What do you guys think about the project too? You know what I'm saying? Am I on the right track? Do y'all think this is gonna come off properly, or this just a dud? And if it's a dud, I'm cool with that too, because artists should be able to fail. Artists should be able to make work that they're not necessarily pleased with, and that's just a learning process, a growing process in itself. But I think this one is a hit. I mean, I think all my series are hits, but that's just me personally. If I don't think I'm the shit, ain't nobody else gonna think I'm the shit. But shit. I really do think I'm not on to something new. I love the idea of the story so much. I appreciate it. So I'm not on to anything new. Um, there's nothing new under the sun. It's never what you do, but how it's done. No, oh yeah, no ideas original. That's an old Nas track, yo. No ideas original. There's nothing new under the sun. It's never what you do, but how it's done. So this is a very, very, very old story. Um, most people are more familiar with religious texts contains this exact same story. It depends on how you read the Bible and how you interpret the Bible. But if you read it flatly outright, the same story is there because um, the Abrahamic scriptures were written by people who had access to these older stories and older tales and legends, and so they incorporated that into their own belief system. So I'm not telling a new story. I'm not telling anything different. This thing is very very well documented, and there's other creative people who have put forth imagery towards telling this story, and so it's definitely not a new thing, but I think I want to do it in my own way, in my own style, and tell like the bigger parts of the story. And once again, hopefully that will get people to question things, and in that questioning, they seek out different sources of information, start doing their own research, which inevitably will cause new conversations to arise. So that's my main goal for all my art is to start a conversation. Have you ever talked about this before? Because this is something new that you may not know about, and here's a new conversation and a new subject or a new topic for you to delve into if you're interested in it. And if you're not, that's fine too. Boozy said it's a new series, so run with it. Only time will tell if it's a dud. Facts. I'm gonna need 5%. For what, P? You need 5% for what? I need some of that. I already got people claiming this first painting already, the one with the pyramid on it. People are already like, oh, I want that. It's like it's not even halfway done yet. It's just a fraction of the way done, and but I mean the potential is there. The potential for this thing is there. So once again, if you're not familiar with this story, you are familiar. All you gotta do is just read the Old Testament of the Bible. If you ever went to Sunday school, you already know this story. You already know this story. There was some gods who created man, and then uh, the gods came to Earth, and they created giants giants that actually walked the earth and taught man civilization. They taught man metallurgy and agriculture, um, the art of cloth making, um, engineering and construction. These were taught to man by giant gods, is what it says in the Bible. It's the same story everywhere you look. So people hate to imagine that there was maybe giants that walked the earth one time. I don't find that hard to believe though, because everybody says it everywhere in every culture on every continent. Everybody says there were giants, and um, most cultures and civilizations say that they did not come up with their knowledge and understanding. Knowledge and understanding was gifted and given to them by their gods. Almost every culture says that. We didn't just figure this shit out ourselves. We didn't just figure out how to mine or do smelting and separate the slag from the pure oil, or and then learn how to make pure gold and mine all these other minerals. Like we didn't figure that out ourselves. Somebody taught us how to do that. And so who were these teachers who had that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that they gifted to mankind? Even when you look at some of the old um, Greek gods, um, who was the motherfucker who gave fire to mankind in the Greek pantheon? Motherfucker had That was the dude who had wings on his ankles. I can't remember all those guys. But even in those stories, like mankind didn't just discover fire and figure out how to work that shit. Like that shit was a gift. And then the God who gave us fire got chastised by the rest of the guys for giving that shit to us. So, very, very old story. It's an old, old story, but it's always intrigued me ever since the first time I heard the story. So I like it a lot, and I just want to share it with people and get people thinking on. Like I say, this story is so common that we all are aware of it. But what if it's been told in a skewed manner where we're not really seeing the story for what it is? And that's my part. Prometheus. Prometheus gave mankind fire. And didn't he get in trouble for that shit though? He got in trouble for giving us. He got punished for that shit. For giving us fire. But that's just some old made up legends from people way back when. You can say the same shit about every religion currently who talk about Jesus and Moses. That was just some shit from way back when. Motherfuckers just made that shit up. Same thing. Same thing. Prometheus gave mankind fire. So we always get our knowledge about the world from these gods. And once again, who were these gods? Who were they? Were they some non-physical Ethereum energy ball or something? Or were they like physical beings with physical bodies that walked like we walk and communicated? Like, once again, like it says in the Bible. It does. It just says it. Like if you remember the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Yep. Zeus chained him to a mountain and had the giant bird eat his liver, and it kept growing back, and then the bird would come back and eat that bitch again, then it'd grow back, and and that's how they punish these motherfuckers, make some shit happen over and over. Like the one motherfucker who had to keep pushing the big ass boulder up the hill, and as soon as he get almost to the top of the hill, that shit roll back down to the bottom. Yeah, I gotta push this bitch all the way back up again. Roll back down. Motherfucker, I'm just keep you in endless pain. This motherfucking have a vulture just eat your liver. Then it grow back. Then you have to suffer through that shit again with the same intensity like it's the first time that it happened. These motherfuckers were crazy, bro. It was crazy. But yeah, I like this story. And I think there is something to it. More than just like fables and allegories and myths and legends. Like all of it stem from a real thing. All of it comes from a real place. But it's so far back in time that no one really remembers. And the motherfuckers who really may have the deepest understanding of that shit, they ain't sharing it with everybody. They don't share that shit with us. They not gonna tell us the whole thing. They not gonna tell us the whole thing. So we gonna have to like piece this shit together ourselves. That's the only way to get any kind of true understanding, man. Just piece that shit together yourself. Bits and pieces. Bits and pieces. And then I shared some shit on Facebook today, and I said something about the Anunnaki gods. But then somebody was like, well, who created the Anunnaki? And my default answer is, fuck, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who created the Anunnaki. I couldn't even tell you. couldn't even tell you. All right, let's Ooh, what is this?
Past is buried right beneath our feet, but it's not just buried. It's also in what we mistakenly think of as nothing more than just piles of rocks or hills. That is certainly the case for this fortress with its giant doorway, concealed by the deep gorges, making it almost invisible until recent time. Located in the mountains, high above Heejin City, China. And I do hope I have that pronounced right. Apologies if I don't. Just look at that beautiful and massive archway. And you can clearly see the melted ruins of a much, much larger structure all around it. Showing us once again that we are standing in the ruins of far grander civilizations. Standing in the shadows in this post-apocalyptic time. Question everything, friends. Until next time. So much of our hidden past is buried right beneath our feet. But it's not just buried. It's also in what we mistakenly think of as nothing more than just piles of rocks or hills. That is certainly the case for this fortress with its giant doorway, concealed by the deep gorges, making it almost invisible until recent time. Located in the mountains, high above Heejin City, China. And I do hope I have that pronounced right. Apologies. Much of our past
Once again, man, our
is
history,
buried
yo,
right
this
by
fucking shit is older than, way older than anybody can really, like the average person thinks. Some people really understand, like, how old this thing is, but, like, the average person really has no clue how old civilization is. Mm-mm. Way older than people think. And then I was listening to something else yesterday. Uh, damn. So where did I hear that shit at? Yo, somebody posed a really, really, really good fucking question, bro. A really good question. So, the Grand Canyon. Oh, I was listening to somebody talk about I don't know, I was just going on this Grand Canyon thing, like, was there uh Egyptian artifacts really found in the Grand Canyon, and then somebody says there was like some Asian artifacts found in the Grand Canyon. But then I listened to somebody else, yo. This dude put out a really good question. Uh, so we're taught that the Grand Canyon was carved out by the Colorado River, right? Am I the only one who thinks that, or am I the only one who was taught that in school, or is that what did we all learn that? Because that's what I was always taught in geography or in science. Not yeah, science. That the Colorado River, over the course of thousands of years, eventually just, you know, carved out this canyon that's, before I even say a number, I can just Google how deep. is the Grand Canyon. All right, 6,000 feet deep. Grand Canyon is considered one of the finest examples of arid land erosion in the world. Incised by the Colorado River, the canyon is immense, averaging 4,000 feet deep for its entire 277 miles. It is 6,000 feet deep at its deepest point and 18 miles at its widest point. "18 miles across at its widest point and 6,000 feet deep at its deepest point." How was the Grand Canyon formed? Uplift of the Colorado Plateau was a key step in the eventual formation of the Grand Canyon. The action of plate tectonics lifting the rocks high and flat created a plateau through which the Colorado River could cut down. The way in which the uplift of the Colorado Plateau occurred is puzzling. So between tectonic plates shifting and the water. Okay. Well, that makes more sense instead of just saying the water did it, because I was taught that only the water did it. Man, experimented with high explosives. But somebody asked a good question, like if the Colorado River was able to carve out the Grand Canyon, how come there isn't some type of Grand Canyon where the Mississippi River is at, or where the Nile River is at, or where any other major waterway like that has been flowing for thousands of years? Why isn't the water doing the same thing that we see at the Grand Canyon site from the Colorado River? And I thought that was a really good question. And I was like, I don't know why other rivers haven't carved out large ass canyons. But Google just made the fine point of it had a lot to do with tectonic plate shifting and lifting the land, giving the water a specific route to travel.
Built them, and why are they trying to hide them? Let's see.
Guys, we're down here taking breaks. We're downtown Flint. Downtown. So check this out. That tree is clearly 300 years old. Probably 200. Look at what we found inside. What is this?
And that's right in my hometown.
I got some markings on it, but I don't know. That ain't natural. Anybody got any thoughts?
So I'm sitting underneath the pyramid right now. It is pretty nice looking. It does look like there's a bunch of gravel around it that, they blast around the side of it, but it's not, because it's perfectly cut. It's perfectly designed on the angles and steps and everything. And the rest of it looks like it was just buried. It literally looks like it was buried, and now it's been opened up to be viewed, but nobody knows it's even here because nobody talks about it. All right, you can see right there, zooming in. You can see pretty clearly. And it's pretty nice. And if you zoom out, for those of you who think it's not very big, I'm standing almost about a mile away from it. Almost about. And that's pretty far, going down from there to here to the ground. And I'm not even on the ground. See, look, I'm in the brush, and there's quite a big ditch down there. So you can see it's pretty big.
This is a diagram of underwater pyramids hidden in Oregon. Oregon is said to have pyramids everywhere found around the state. We know the truth now.
Y'all see this pyramid out here in the woods in Tennessee? Watch this. Look. You see it? Look. Ching, ching. So much is hidden from us. Y'all ready? Check this out. Here's the vents that go to the pyramid. There's no telling how old this stuff is. At least 2,000 years. What are you laughing at? Here's the base of it right here, about to go around. I'm gonna try to find the spot.
Is that a pyramid, John? Like, at that, I would walk by that and just think that was like a little mound type, the hill type thing. I wouldn't even pay no attention to it really like that. But is that a pyramid? Because maybe all this time I've been thinking I've been seeing mounds or something, and it's been pyramids hidden up under them or something. I don't know. Like, comment below. Make sure you like the video. Let's go.
Climb up it so I can show y'all. There's one of the chambers right there. Hold on a second. Alright, there's the second vent shaft. Yeah, it's like 1,800 years old, so I know we're getting close. Alright, that's the only entrance, so y'all just let me know if y'all want part 2. What do you think about it? What do you think about it, fat boy?
The ancient pyramids in Mississippi and a strange.
Now, this the other thing too, man. Everybody say that North America is actually the oldest place where civilization was at, yo. And everything started here and was taken over to Africa because during the upheaval or the deluge, the flood, or the Younger Dryas, or whatever you want to call this shit, yo, Africa had a better elevation. And so there is a continent, the continent of Mu actually sunk. It was not as big as Australia, but it was still not just a little island. It was like a continent out in the middle of the ocean. They say that shit sank. Lost dozens and dozens of islands and miles of coastline. And so the survivors from all that shit, from Antarctica and North America, all the motherfuckers went to Africa and started it back over. And now people starting to see like temple complexes and mounds that are actually pyramids, old as megalithic walls. There's this one wall in Minnesota somewhere, that shit old as fuck, bro, like thousands of years old, thousands of years. And it's not like little hand-sized bricks, it's like some megalithic, like Egypt looking shit. How is that shit in America older and more weathered away than things in like what they call the cradle of civilization around Mesopotamia and Mesopotamia and the northern parts of Africa? Like, motherfuckers starting to figure this shit out, yo. America is one of the oldest places for actual civilization. But they just don't want to start doing no excavation over here because it's too much to rewrite all their fucking history. And once again, never being racist, but man, the deeper you dig, man, the darker people get, yo, and they hate that shit because the people who control information now don't look like the people who started the information, and they don't like that. So there has to be a narrative, always, that we are the best, and that things are always getting better. There was no one before us that was better than we are. Everything always progresses, but obviously it's not. There has been a great degression. and a lot of our wisdom, knowledge, and understanding about the world itself. So, motherfuckers don't want to hear a lot of this shit most of the time. But this is why I'm choosing to do this series now. Because this shit just be on my mind all the time. I ain't gonna lie. I think about, like, once again, if you had the option of going to the future or going to the past, which one would you choose? Or if I had a looking glass or some shit, I would try to see. I would tell the looking glass to show me the first. I would want to see the apex of the first civilization on Earth. That first civilization, show me their highest point. Now, would that be the Sumerians? Because everybody wants to attribute the organization of civilization to the Sumerians because um, they had cities, agriculture, and literature, and kept records in history. And so those are all the main components of a civilization, especially when it comes to the record keeping, establishing religious beliefs, and especially just like being able to structure large groups of people that live in very close proximity to each other without there being, um, violence and confusion of all kinds. So if I did ask like some kind of magic looking glass to show me the highest point of the first civilization on this planet, would I see that? Would I see um, Sumer at its greatest period in history, or would I see something that's completely unrecognizable? Something that's so old and so grand that it wouldn't even seem like it was a real thing. Well, I guess too, like now with see, that's what I'm saying. Like with Göbekli Tepe, now is Sumer's still considered the first culture and the first civilization? Because now we're still just finding stuff that's older than Sumer now. So I don't know. Some of they some of their research and explanations of the past, that shit don't add up though. That's the one thing I do know. A lot of that shit, the basic mainstream stuff that we were taught, especially if you went to a public school, man, that shit don't be adding up. It really don't.
others. So Mississippi,
It goes
beautiful
in.
land, hold a secret that go against what we usually know. There was ancient pyramids that belonged to a smart group of people a long time ago. Now we gonna learn about these lost pyramids, which was broken down when the new folk came to America, and how they still impact people today. Now it's similar to the Bermuda Triangle in a story from the past, way before Columbus came. Before he came to America, a group of people lived here and built things like pyramids. And these pyramids showed just how smart these folks was and how good they was at building and knowing about the stars and all that kind of junk. And people think that these pyramids were very special places for their beliefs, but history books don't talk much about it. Matter of fact, they don't talk at all about it. Now these pyramids was destroyed and hidden. So when the new folk came from Europe, they took over the land and destroyed a lot of the old stuff because they ain't made none of them, including these pyramids. Now they wanted to take away the cultures of the people. It was like the number one way to just slap them in the face. But some say that not all the pyramids was destroyed. Some of them still buried under hills, all over the Mississippi area, all up along the Mississippi River and all that. And these hidden pyramids is waiting to be found and studied. Now, it's like a magic type of thing around. And what's interesting, these pyramids is thought to have some kind of power that affect people's minds. Just like them strange things that happen up in the Bermuda Triangle. These pyramids said to give off this energy that can change the way we think. And people believe that being near these can make us feel different and even see things that ain't normal, changing how people think. And people who go near the pyramids where the hidden stuff might be, they talk about these strange experiences. And they say they felt that their senses were stronger and they saw things they couldn't explain. And they felt like their minds was different. And this makes us wonder if these old pyramids still have an impact on us even though they're hidden away. Now, the pyramids of Mississippi is important because they tell us about people who lived a long time ago and just how smart they really was. A lot of the stuff we got that we think is new now, that junk ain't new. And we should work to find these pyramids and learn from them and the magic stuff that they got coming up off of them. But it remind us of the past that still can affect us in ways we don't understand.
Haters everywhere we go, haters everywhere we go, haters everywhere we go, where we go, haters going down for the count, looking at the ground. I think you're a hater, I think you're a hater, haters everywhere we go, haters.
Lake Pyramid.
This Lake Pyramid, found in northwest Nevada. They say America has no pyramids. Cap. This pyramid is 14,000 years old. Amazing. Beautiful scenery. This is an ancient picture of the pyramid. This, said to be rock erosion, looks like a statue. Glyphs found at the pyramid are 14,000 years old. This skull was found on the beach, 10,000 years old.
Wow.
We know the truth now.
Wow.
Lost City. Amateurs claim to have found 1,200-year-old underwater city with pyramids and energy field off the U.S. coast. Oh my goodness, let's get into it. So this 1,200-year-old city is off the coast of New Orleans in Mississippi. Let's read this. What's down there? Hundreds of buildings that are covered with sand and slits that are geologically related to the Great Pyramids of Giza. So they basically connected these pyramids with the pyramids of Giza. They didn't talk too much about the energy field, and we know why. But let's watch the video and see what dude got to say about the pyramids he found.
Discovered the ruins of an ancient civilization
Pay attention.
off the coast of St. Bernard Parish.
He claims there are large mounds underwater that may have once been the site of a lost city thousands of years ago.
Well, Murphy reports local fishermen have long talked about strange and unexplained things happening in that area.
The pyramids.
The Chandeleur Islands are a chain of uninhabited barrier
That's where
islands
it's at.
located in the Gulf of Mexico, 50 miles east of New Orleans. But 12,000 years ago, before a dramatic sea level rise at the end of the last ice age, this area may have been dry land. 3 different searchers.
Our ancestors was there.
Retired architect and amateur archaeologist George Gillet believes the site, now underwater, was once home to an ancient civilization. He dubbed the city Crescentus.
What's down there is hundreds of buildings that are covered with sand and silt and that are geographically related to the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Come on now.
Giza is
So
a
we
city
say
in northern
Egypt is over here.
where ancient pyramids in the
We
Sphinx
say
are
Egypt
located.
is over here.
Gillet claims to have found mysterious mounds of granite under Chandeleur Sound. Granite is not native to Louisiana or Mississippi.
Somebody floated a billion stones down the Mississippi River.
A
and
billion
assembled
stones.
outside of what would later become
Granite.
New Orleans.
Egypt was in America too.
Man, you wonder, like, what else we don't know? There's so much we don't know. I keep learning so much every day.
And then off the coast of Colombia, there's pyramids off the coast of Colombia. And that's the thing too that people don't realize, and I already heard somebody else explain it too, is that yeah, when the coastline disappeared and these cities sunk underwater, you won't just see all of them underwater because they've been covered by sand and silt. So we got to go underwater excavating the same way we went and dug up Göbekli Tepe. It was meters underneath the ground. We had to dig meters and meters of sand and rock and debris away from the Great Sphinx and all that shit, but we just don't do it underwater. But if we went off, like you said, 40, 50 miles off the coastline and start digging down into that sand, yo, we'll find old ass cities down there, old ass cities that were the progenitors of Egypt. Egypt started on this side first. All that knowledge and everything started here and then was taken across the ocean.
Much it's like they've been hiding everything from us. They don't want us to know anything. I know we've been here before and everything, but it's like, come on now, man. All the truth is coming out. Everybody's waking up. I'm waking up. Like, these videos is helping me. It's just content to just bring awareness to everybody. That's why I'm putting these videos up. I appreciate everybody who's watching. Make sure you like it. Make sure you subscribe. Let's keep going.
To me,
Retired architect and amateur archaeologist George
Built in a type of it's in the comments. Like and follow for more wisdom and stay tuned.
One of the strangest things is that when we were taught about pyramids growing up, we're typically focused on Egypt, when in reality there are pyramids all over the world. The biggest pyramid in the world isn't even located in Egypt, it's located in Mexico. And although different cultures did use the pyramids for different purposes, like tombs or sacrifices, it's theorized that the pyramids were originally built by a previous civilization for the purpose of powering their entire world. From a scientific standpoint, the way that the pyramids were built and the type of materials that they used, like granite, dolomite, wrapped in limestone with gold at the top, made them perfect conductors of electricity. So even outside of the pyramids, many relics have been found with perfectly cut right angles and drill holes in them, which many archaeologists admit would be extremely hard without power, but maybe they did have power. After looking at some of these artifacts, Christopher Dunn said that he believed that this was evidence that there was a higher level of civilization that existed in the past that we weren't taught about. Leave a like, let me know what you think about this.
This is so scary. In 1944, a guy named Nick Bird stumbled upon a massive pyramid in Antarctica while exploring for military purposes. Nick and his team were searching for an entrance when they noticed that most of the pyramid extended beneath the ice. One of the soldiers found a narrow entrance that looked more like a ventilation shaft. Nick and 5 more soldiers climbed into this shaft, and in just 5 minutes, they entered a small room. What they found inside shocked them. The pyramid appeared as if it had been abandoned for millennia, yet it contained numerous technologies they couldn't comprehend. They took some pictures before being called back to the station. Nick Bird shared everything with his superiors, who were initially skeptical. However, all 1,000 soldiers confirmed the story. The government claimed they would take care of it and conduct further research, but nothing more was ever heard. This story spread quickly, but underwent some alterations here and there. However, when Captain Bird passed away, a book was found at his home detailing the incident. These are all rumors and cannot be proven, but I've linked the pictures. You can find the
people in Egypt, they believed in what's called Kemet, the people that existed before the Egyptians. When we hear these stories about the Great Pyramid being a tomb for the pharaoh, it's worth mentioning that even the locals didn't believe that. The saying that the pyramids were built to be tombs for the pharaohs wasn't even developed until 150 years ago. That's it. They were taught Kemet. And it's worth mentioning that when you go through inside these pyramids of Giza, there's not one single glyph in any of them whatsoever. There was never a mummy found in any Egyptian pyramid ever. Quite literally, the only reason why we are told this stuff is because that was the theory developed by these men that went in there and said, I believe these must have been for the pharaohs. That makes sense.
So it's all just one group of people had one theory, and that theory just stuck around.
100%.
Pyramids exist in the US. Here is a mound in Florida.
Sun is shining, the weather is sweet.
Is that a pyramid or is that just a hill or something, man? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, stuff like that. You know if that's a pyramid or not. That might just be like a little mound or a hill or something, but it's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing what you can find out. When I think of pyramids, all I think about is Egypt. Whole life growing up, school history, what they taught us was Egypt. But, you know, they don't teach us the truth. You know what I'm saying? They teach us what they want to teach us, so. Comment below, make sure you like the video. Let's get it.
Did they tell you that there's pyramids hidden all over America, especially North America? Pyramids and mounds, all right? Matter of fact, a lot of people watching this video are the descendants of the ancient mound builders, all right? A prehistoric, yeah, you heard me right, a prehistoric culture of North America. But for now, check this out.
Pyramid Lake in Los Angeles, California. Now, first and foremost, you know, it's called Pyramid Lake because of this structure right here. We're going to talk about exactly how it got there. So, well, first we're going to tell you what they say. You know, at first this lake was a river, but like in the 30s, like around 1933, they cut the mountain to make way for this, you know, series of roads right here. Here's where it starts getting fishy. They started cutting into the mountain because this mountain is basically mostly just sand. It's not hard rock. This is a relatively soft mountain. And they stopped. And when they stopped right here, they left a pyramid, basically structure in the side of the mountain. Now, they say this was done by mistake, and that's why the lake was then later called Pyramid Lake. But here's the thing. They say this was formed by accident. But while on the sides, or they're clear, like as you can see, it would then taper off into another series of ridges from the side of the pyramid, right? They also cut the mountain right here to make this parking lot, right? Now, as you can see, when they cut the mountain right here, there is no pyramid. And also, what's the point of leaving it in a pyramid-like structure? That would actually be, you know, vain. That would have no reason. What appears to have happened is they started to cut into the mountain, which was just piled up sand. And they dug until they hit this, and then they stopped. That's literally what it looks like. And when you look at it from ground view, it looks like a perfect pyramid from ancient times. You would think that this is something that you would see in Saqqara, Egypt. You think this is something that you see in Mesoamerica? They don't want you to know that this southern part of California was a part of a Hamitic civilization that built pyramids and temples and all this other stuff. They don't want you to understand that. You know, it just doesn't make sense.
Someone that's smart, that's so miss. Can't read the language of Egyptian mummies. On a flag or a moon. Someone that goes, that's that little
Can't find food for the starving tummies.
Look at me, habibi.
I don't know what happened with that. Make sure you like the video.
There are hundreds of pyramids and earthen pyramid mounds here in North America. It is always said that no one knows who built them. But the truth is they were built by the ancestors of the so-called African Americans and so-called indigenous Indians.
My question is, if these pyramids were built before Columbus came to America, and before Columbus came to America, we wasn't here, we was in Africa, then how the hell do we build pyramids inside of America? Trying to tell you, man, it's more to meet your eye, man. Look it up.
Like, is that a mountain or just a hill? Like,
Did you know that the United States has its own Great Pyramid? Just outside of St. Louis lies its ruin, Monk's Mound, built by the mysterious Mississippian civilization. The Mississippians prospered just after the first millennium CE. Their greatest and most important city was just outside of St. Louis. We now call it Cahokia. At its peak, this city had more residents than London. Many people think that the United States really has no history. It's just not true. For thousands of years, there have been complex, urban civilizations littered throughout what is now the United States of America. U.S. Southeast is one of the cradles of civilization. It independently domesticated crops. I think the sad part is that these people oftentimes get ignored because they were not endowed with stone. So their monuments and their greatness oftentimes gets overlooked.
When we was Mississippians, we was rebuilding the pyramids. That's why they find pyramids all in motherfucking Mexico. That's why they find pyramids all through, because we put these mounds and we was rebuilding them back up, and we was doing it everywhere. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's not nowhere you can go, and this is why like you are able to find the same things across different continents. If you really had to travel across the water, do you think you're gonna be seeing pyramids in Africa and in North America, if you want to call it that? No. You got plants that's only grown in Africa that they find over here in America. If you start studying about plants, and you got all type of other trees that don't even come from this part of the land. It comes from like Africa somewhere, right? And them trees or those plants come from there, and they can't even tell you how they got here. But they're like, well, this is found in Africa. This whole job, there is no water that separates any of the continents. They all connected by land. It's one landmass, right? But they gave us a different map. You feel me? Like I say, when they take off flying, they got our ass thinking they flying across the ocean. Like if you get on a flight to Africa, you gonna go across the water for 18 hours, and you gonna be like, damn, I had to leave land and go across the ocean. You ain't go across the ocean. They just took your ass in the air. Now they riding you up and down the motherfucking ocean. Got you for hours. Got you thinking like you gotta. Don't take no hours to get there and all those 18 hours. But they gonna fly over the water back and forth to make you think that, so that you have no fucking clue where you at. That's why I told you all that has to do with the things we set up as Mississippians. They gotta do this because you can look, you so programmed and designed, you can see you can just see something and it's gonna enact a bunch of energy codes. Some of y'all hold like the anomaly, certain codes to cracking the light code lockdown is only in certain some of y'all. Some of y'all hold it and hold it in different codes. It's all programming. So some of y'all hold different codes. You feel me? That's why they don't be wanting me to get on here and tell y'all this type of information. You feel me? Check it out. Let me show you.
I ain't learned shit in history. Doing these videos and everything, all the stuff I'm learning and everything, I done came to the conclusion. Learn shit. I didn't learn nothing that was like real in history. They told me I was taught a whole bunch of bullshit. Crazy. But y'all comment below. Make sure you like the video. Let's finish.
Check it out. Let me show you. We were in the process of rebuilding the pyramids. You see what I'm saying? To form that energetic connection, to communicate and and, you know, access certain weaponry that can help us in this war. Let me click on Cahokia. Cahokia was in Middle Mississippi. All right? You see it? The Cahokia Mounds. Now check it out. The biggest one, it was many of them, but the biggest, that's what they call them, the Cahokia Mounds in St. Clair County, Collinsville, Illinois. Now, what you got to understand, these are very powerful, energetic points because they was the Mississippians. We was in the process of trying to rebuild our ancient pyramids. That's why the mounds look like that. But some of them, if you look it up, they talked about how they were bigger than you know, the pyramids of Giza. All right, you know what I'm saying? They'll tell you that much. They just not gonna tell you, you know what I'm saying, what was really going on with these mounds.
Crazy. Man, that's amazing.
Why it be so loud sometimes, man?
The Black Pyramid in Alaska. There is a theory that the government holds top secret hidden facilities in Alaska. It's said to be within what's known as the Alaska Triangle, an area spanning hundreds of miles, which is supercharged with electromagnetic energy. It's similar to the Bermuda Triangle in the fact that there have been a lot of strange disappearances. People have disappeared, planes have vanished without a trace, and despite searches, no traces have ever been found. Within the Alaska Triangle, there is said to be a pyramid, first discovered in World War II. It's reportedly twice the size of the Great Pyramid of Giza. The Black Pyramid is buried deep underground in the Alaskan wilderness, somewhere between Nome and Mount McKinley. Apparently, it's guarded by the U.S. military. Speculation on who built the pyramid has brought most researchers to the conclusion that this was created by a lost ancient civilization.
Keep hiding information from us. There's too much info out there, and waking up and we learn. Crazy, it's amazing to me. Pyramids is over here trying to hide it. Man, comment below, let me know what you think. Make sure you like the video. I appreciate everybody who tapped in. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't. Thank you to everybody who reached 20,000 subscribers. So appreciate every last one of y'all. Man. Peace. Famo TV.
Israel is at war in an unprovoked, murderous attack that has claimed the lives of hundreds of Israelis, and with over 100 civilians, women, children, and elderly taken captive by the Hamas terrorists, we face an unprecedented crisis. The attack took place on the Sabbath. That was also the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles. It happened exactly on the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement War of 1973. The losses we've faced and the scars on the heart of our nation are immeasurable. Now more than ever, we need to stand united and bring comfort to the people of Israel. Will you stop for a moment and pray with me for our people in this conflict? Father in heaven, we come to you asking for your help.
No, thank you.
Battle not with monsters, lest ye become a monster. And if you gaze into the abyss gazes also into you.
Right.
He's a content killer. Do you know the truth? You're gonna decide that, are you?
What's wrong with it? You know, they won't.
Just want a big finale, Sensei!
Welcome back to the True Geordie podcast. Today's guest is one of my favourite new content creators. Discovered Billy Carson recently after going down a rabbit hole. Billy, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, man. I'm glad to be here, and thanks for inviting me.
I really appreciate it. It's very rare that I get hooked on someone's content these days. I feel like I'm all contented out. But we recently had David Icke on, and it is funny how certain people's sort of opinions overlap. And David was talking about how the angels that we've been told about from being kids in school were actually aliens. And getting into your content and seeing how far down the rabbit hole you've gone and how intelligent and well researched you are, it really brought it to life. And I'm just looking forward to my audience reacting to what you've got to say, mate. So kind of, if you could start off by giving us a little bit about you and the research you've been doing and where you're at right now.
Yeah, definitely. Well, obviously my name is Billy Carson. I'm the founder of Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4. It's not a gang sign, by the way. And you gotta say that these days. Everybody, I got so many messages about are you a Mason? No, it's Forbidden Knowledge. But anyway, I was born in New York, 1971. We came down to Miami, Florida to live. I was outside of my backyard one day just playing around, flipping around the grass, looking up at the sky, watching airplanes go over from the private airport. And this object comes across, but it wasn't what I knew to be a plane. Even at the age of 7, I knew it didn't have a fuselage, a tail, a cockpit, and wings. Those are kind of the main, things you need for an airplane. And this thing cleared the horizon in my backyard. It went across in seconds, not minutes. A normal plane would just kind of go across, looking, from our perspective on the ground, kind of slow. And even I knew as a kid, it went too fast. And I was like, whoa, what did I see? Then it came back and then it just stopped. Only now I can estimate about 200 meters above my head, completely silent, almost a complete egg shape, but slightly less than an egg oval, glowing metal, and it went the way it came in. I mean, just blink, it's gone. And I ran in the house. I told my mom, she was just telling me, yeah, she said advanced beings existed in the ancient past. And she started telling me about Machu Picchu. She said they used to live on tops of mountains. This is in the 70s. Wow. My mom told me this. And she didn't discourage me about the information whatsoever, but nobody else really wanted to talk about it. But the next day I went to my school, Rainbow Park Elementary, and I started researching from the Encyclopedia Britannica that day, all the aerospace information, swept wing, delta wing, I looked for ballistics, intercontinental ballistics. I mean, I went to everything, experimental planes. They were even talking about back then in the 70s, the potential for the shuttle program back then. So I started digging into aerospace. I became kind of a quasi-aerospace historian. And that rabbit hole of looking into all these declassified types of aircraft just took me down a million rabbit holes over the years, which got me into studying advanced technologies, of course, black budgeted technologies, which then took me into ancient civilizations because, in my opinion, some type of tech created those ancient sites, which led me down so many more rabbit holes into ancient tablets, inscriptions, papyruses, cylinder scrolls. I've now traveled the world over 30 times. I've been to a lot of ancient sites and places and met with indigenous wisdom keepers all around the world. Gone through over 1,000 books, papyruses, scriptures, cylinder scrolls, and ancient texts from everywhere you can think of. Spent countless hours out in the desert, walkabouts in the outback with aboriginals. So I've done it all. And so I've been able to come up with a lot of my hypothesis and conclusion based on a lot of first-hand research and a lot of scholarly research as well that have happened over many decades.
I kind of want to start us off on what I've been reading and watching a lot of what you've been saying on about the aliens, the Anunnaki, and how much evidence there is in ancient history that really seems to have been not really talked about too. Like I've been in history class and I've never heard anything about it, and I'm listening to you being like, how old is this stuff? So maybe we could go down that avenue to start with, and I think this interview could be a very kind of basic compared to how far you go, because I do want to touch on a lot of things that I've heard you talk about in a bit of detail, and then maybe part 2 can come and we can really go into it. But in terms of the information you've come across, the tablets and the scrolls and scriptures, how old is that? Like, do you know how old it is?
Well, the tablets and scriptures and the oldest text we know of is around 40,000 years old max. Okay, that's the oldest text. We're talking about the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. That's between 36 to 40,000 years old, and that might even be a copy from a much older tablet. But we do have an account of these beings that goes far beyond that, When you look at the Enuma Elish and the 7 tablets of creation, we discover that epic has been copied over and over again. The oldest version is approximately 6,500 years old. And we know that they're talking about something that happened prior to that writing approximately 450,000 years ago. We're talking about deep, deep, deep antiquity, knowledge of super ancient information, super antiquity, so far back that we can't even really grasp that human beings could be advanced and that there could be beings visiting and so forth and so on, all this going on that far back.
And you mentioned Thoth, and I hear you referencing, I assume it's a him, a lot. Can you tell me a bit about him and what sort of things he wrote down?
Yes, he's one of these ancient beings that I primarily wrote my book about. He wrote the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and those tablets are, like I said, 36 to 40,000 years old. What's interesting about this being is he didn't claim to be a god. He never masqueraded as a god like the majority of his relatives, if you want to call them that, right? His consorts or his peers. These were advanced beings that had faces like you and I. Their body structure slightly different, a little bit larger, a little bit different, but they are recognizable as a person that you can talk to and they can speak back. And he became known as the first intelligencer. He traveled around this entire planet, bringing knowledge, wisdom, civilization all around the planet, more specifically in the land of Kem, or Kemet, where he developed alchemy and chemistry. Comes out of the land of Kem, which is pre-dynastic Egypt. And this guy literally is responsible, according to him, for the building of the Great Pyramid. He said, build it out of the Great Pyramid so that it too might last, remain through the ages. So this guy is a real sophisticated architect. He's got the blueprints, and he tells his team to go around the planet and duplicate what they rebuilt in Kemet after the Great Flood. But he said that they were going to bring civilization back up to a high level, which means it had already been at a high level prior to the flood, which the Sumerian tablets, the King's List, documents this, which is located in the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford, England. So this guy's a wisdom keeper, super smart being who claims to have even conquered death through knowing how to create avatar bodies and transfer his consciousness from body to body. He said so he can walk amongst men, but unlike a man.
Wow. Okay. So you're a smart dude, bro. I'm going to try and keep up with you. So when you talk about, he didn't claim to be a god, for example. It kind of, I think you described this in one of your interviews I watched, where you said, like, if you think about it, if we went back in time now from the version of us that we are now, even a couple of thousand years ago, and we have phones and knowledge and a lot of the things that they didn't have back then, we could pose as gods if we wanted to. So when you say he chose not to, he wasn't really a quote-unquote god, but he wasn't of the same origins as human. He was something else.
He was something else. These people came from other planets, and a record of this can be discovered all over the world. You have the Dogon tribe, the original inhabitants of the land of Kemet before they got overthrown and moved out to Mali, Africa. But the Dogon tribe, they talk about the Nommo coming from the star system Sirius, right? Sirius B, which is a star that ran out of fuel. These beings created a breakaway civilization here on Earth. You have the Zulu tribe, same exact story. Then you have the indigenous people of the Americas, the Red Man, right? He's talking about the same thing. Our Star Brothers, they seeded us on this planet. They seeded us. According to them, the indigenous Native Americans, they were seeded here by Pleiadians. Then what's crazy is I go to Australia. I'm out in the outback with the Aboriginals. They have the same exact story. We're the first people on this planet, they say, and their verbal handed down history for thousands of years is that they were seeded on this planet by Pleiadians. And there's Pleiadian hieroglyphs in the outback at Carryong 9, which nobody on the planet has been able to decipher yet, and they date back 5,000 years because of the patina inside of the glyphs. That's been dated back to 5,000 years, verified. So we know that there's this story going on no matter what culture you go to around the world. You can go to the Urals of Russia and Europe, and you go to Bosnia in the Bosnian pyramid area. The stories just are the same exact stories. Beings from somewhere else came here. According to the ancient Egyptians, they say the Neturu came here. They call them the Neturu, and it's Thoth, and they depict them on the Edfu temple. Thoth, Isis, Horus, Osiris, and those beings, they claim, came at the time of Zep Tepi, that's the beginning times, and they said they turned mud into a kingdom. Sumerians have the same exact story in the Sumerian tablets. in the Atrahasis epic, in the Enuma Elish, and so many more. You can read the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita. All these texts are telling you the same story. People from somewhere else, and I do mean people, not little green men with little antenna, people that we can identify as a person that we can speak to back and forth and learn from. They engaged us in some way, shape, or form, and they came to this planet and created a breakaway civilization. And why? My research tells me that there was a war that happened in the Pleiades, and I'm covering this in my new TV series, Anunnaki History, which is coming out next year. And so this war created a situation where a weapon was used called the Brahmahanda weapon, which had the power to destroy any man on 3 worlds. It was blowing up planets. It was blowing up moons. Imagine if Mars blew up right now. On Earth, we'd be really scared because of debris that can come and create a cataclysmic event. In space refugees, and this is my personal hypothesis now. Now I'm going to my hypothesis mode. That they left those areas and those regions and went to new sectors to create breakaway civilizations, kind of a fresh start, and Earth was one of them.
I've seen you kind of looking at satellite images from other planets where you look at, in detail, unusual structures, for example. But have you, I've heard from David Ickham saying the word Nibiru was a possible planet they came from. Do you have an idea of where these people came from?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Nibiru and Anunnaki are 2 terms that people say don't exist. Mentioned in the Enuma Elish. So we know those terms and those words are real words, but some of them came from Sirius star system, some came from the Pleiades, some came from Aldebaran, some came from the Epsilon Boötis constellation. So there was a varying different array of planets that these people, when they spread out from the Pleiades, they literally populated many stars. They actually have the power to travel from star to star, something that we're supposed to be able to do now, but with all the suppression and oppression, we haven't been able to get there. But so we're talking about a multiracial, multi-planetary species, created an Atlantean civilization. That's the name. They're all Anunnaki because that means from those from heaven came to earth. But they created an Atlantean civilization on Earth, and Earth was Atlantis, not just a ring city in the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah. That was just one capital of dozens that existed, but the entire planet itself was Atlantis. And I believe Atlantis was, even in this solar system, an interplanetary civilization as well.
Yeah, so when people say, where did Atlantis go? We're on it, essentially.
We're on it. We're all standing and sitting on it right now.
And how advanced, if we were to put a time frame on it, how much more advanced technologically were they than us right now?
Well, if you were to look at where we are right now as a species, they were approximately 1 million years ahead of us, which is a big number. Wow. And the reason why I calculate this and how I come up with this is a hypothesis. This is not stated in any record. But when you look at the fact that we're talking about approximately 450,000 years ago, they arrived initially, the first pantheon. The pantheon doesn't come out of Greece, and the pantheon was a Sumerian pantheon. And that first pantheon arrived, you're talking about 450,000. Now, they worked and labored themselves for 250,000 years without interacting or engaging the existing hominid on the planet, which was actually our cousins, before we were Homo sapiens sapien. They didn't engage in genetic manipulation until about 200,000 years ago, which geneticists can align with that. Their statements in their peer-reviewed documents can align that chromosome number 2 was taken out and infused together, and telomere caps were put on them approximately 200,000 years ago. And geneticists in universities are saying that was an artificial mutation. Well, the Sumerian records are telling us exactly how it happened. These people did it to us to create Homo sapiens sapien and make us into the workers so they can stop working. It was a big war that was going to happen. There was a coup that was going to happen in the Atrahasis, and they said, no, we'll get these beings to do the work for us. And that's when the genetic manipulation happened. But so 450,000 years, they've already traveled from star to star to star. That means they had been super advanced for a very, very long time. The technology that they had back then, 100,000, 450,000 years ago, we aren't even close to cracking that code. We still have no clue. We only have 10,000 hypotheses about how the pyramid was built. We still flying around in, in planes that are using fossil fuel. We got cars on fossil. We're trying to go to hydrogen now because EVs are no good. And close. We're not even in the vicinity. They had mastered the ability to combine spirituality with technology. So they took spiritual essence, which is the power of conscious thought, and they were able to now mix that with technology, giving them an unbelievable array of different types of quote-unquote powers that to us were godlike. So we're not even close to that level.
So just to break it down into layman's terms for people who've been, we've all heard Darwin's theory of evolution at school, for example. How would you say the real story goes as opposed to that?
Yeah, as opposed to Darwin, which Darwin actually admitted himself that he didn't fully believe in his own theory before he died. So it's a fact, but they never say that little extra part at the end in college, right? But what we're talking about here is an advanced race of beings that came to this planet at the time where mankind, a different version of us, still look the same, probably bigger bones, bigger jaws. They found much bigger skulls around this entire planet, so we know that we look different, probably much smarter spiritually and consciously. But nonetheless, we were here, and then at some point, this war was going to happen in South Africa at a place called Adam's Calendar, and an agreement was made to add their essence to the existing being here, which was our cousin. So they genetically modified us, and then from there, we became the worker. So they tried at first this cloning technique, which I took people to see the evidence of this cloning at the Kamambo and the Karnak Temple. So you can see evidence in the walls of hieroglyphs, the cloning technique. Temple of Hathor, where they had the birthing houses for the clones. They have the cloning techniques was, according to the text, these beings couldn't replicate on their own. So labor again, just to try to create a population of workers. So ISIS says, you know what, I've had it. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to take the baby to term myself. And so she takes an egg from an existing hominid. She adds their essence to that egg. She puts it in her own womb. Now, we're talking about now scientifically something called a zygote, or we're talking about in vitro fertilization back then. She takes the baby to term for 10 months, and there's a famous cylinder scroll in the British Museum with her holding up the baby. She calls it the Adamu, which means first man. And she's saying, my hands have created it. That was the first genetically modified version of perfection for a self-replicating human being. Homo sapiens sapien was now born. And this is where you get in the Bible, Genesis, the generations of Isis, Genesis, right? And so, that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
And
And
so
Adamu
she tried to make
Adam, as in Adam and Eve, right?
Adam and Eve, right?
Yeah.
So exactly. Now, when Adam was born, there were already hundreds of thousands of people on the planet, maybe even more than that. And so he wasn't the first man. You can't get 8 billion people from 2 people. And if anybody doesn't believe that, just start mating your son and daughter with each other and see how many generations you can get out of that before a one-eyed, crippled person comes out, right? So you have to be like, okay, wait a minute, not enough genetic diversity. 2 people can't create 8 billion. So they started mating him with these clones. The clones still couldn't get pregnant. So then they said, okay, we've got to take a sample. So they took a sample of DNA from him, created Eve, mated them. Bingo, it worked. Adam and Eve weren't the first ones. So they said, now we got to make a whole slew of these people. So they started doing that, making these, in the Hathor birthing houses, they started giving birth to Adamus and Eves. And then now they're growing them up, and now they're mating them together. They're creating genetic diversity, and they're creating a population of people that can replicate on their own. The evidence of this is when Cain kills Abel, God comes back, it's actually Yahweh, which is actually in Lil from the Sumerian tablets, and he says, what's going on here now? You're God, you should already know what's going on here. But he obviously kills his brother out of jealousy. He kicks him out of the garden, and Cain says, the people out there will kill me. Well, what people? There shouldn't be anybody out there. Says, don't worry, I put a mark on your head so they'll know, I'm going to brand you, so they'll know you're my boy. Nobody's going to touch you, so don't worry about it. And when you get out there, by the way, the Bible says you'll find a wife. See, so there was people, many, 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 many people living outside, and he goes off to start the whole Canaanites. But many people living before Adam and Eve, but still the religion still pushed came out of two people comes the entire population, which is fake news.
So these people who were here before, who are basically relatives to what we are now, who created them, I guess, and how did they get here? Are they just animals?
That's a great question. You see, these people mentioned several times in the tablets that what they had done here, they knew was wrong. They were operating like, the old Wild Wild West. That they were doing things that were according to them, I forget the exact terminology, but they were saying that their laws from where they had come from, like they were violating those laws. They said they will have to answer to the creator of all. And they say this a couple times in some of these tablets. So that means from their perspective, there is somebody that created all, aware of this. So even though they masqueraded as gods and pretended to be God and, you know, Satan, the Lord of Eden, that's actually Enlil, who becomes Yahweh in the modern day Bible, these people acted as gods and pretended to be gods and made the people worship them and bring them all the offerings were so they can have food to eat. These people aren't going to go hunting anywhere. Bring me your vegetables and fruits and bring me that damn lamb because I'm hungry. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so this is why there's storehouses for all the offerings at all these ancient temples that I go visit, because they would actually dump all that food in there, and then these people would, you know, the priests would cook the food for these fake gods. But so that's what's going on. That's what happened.
The more I've looked into it, the more it seems a bit more likely than, you know, water into wine and some of the other stories in the Bible.
Yeah.
And in terms of the powers that we've had, you know, we've got this version of human and the previous version of human. Do you think we've ever been more powerful, almost to like a supernatural level of ability?
I really do believe that. I believe that we're I don't like to use the word dumbed down, but we're the version that's got to find itself. In other words, it's still in us, but we've got to now tap back into what we already had in ancient times. I believe that our cousins, in deeper spiritually, probably could communicate with telepathy, right? Probably had a lot more psychic abilities, deeper empathic abilities. Also, right now, human beings, Homo sapien, we have billions of magnetite crystals in our brains, and we don't even sense that they're there. But they took a human being, put him in a room with a giant bar magnet, put sensors on his head, connected it to a computer, and when they moved the bar magnet, the crystals reorient to the magnetic field. So we should still, hypothetically, still be able to navigate by the Earth's magnetic field like turtles and birds and everything else. But we've been so disconnected from that, from that natural ability that we think it's something special when somebody has these innate abilities. We think, oh man, they're special. They got gifts. No, we all have gifts. We just forgot how to open our packages, and all of the stuff that they had, we're supposed to be able to tap into as well. We have now junk DNA, which is not junk. Scientists are just now finding out that really acts on the body and activates and turns off and on genes. Trying to figure out, well, what genes does it turn off and turn on, and how do we get that back activated again? So we kind of really been disconnected from who we truly are. We have the power in us because it's talked about in the myth of Adapa, which is an ancient tablet, that we were created even greater than the Anunnaki themselves, but that we would have to go on a hero's journey of self-discovery to get back to it.
So how's this memory reset taken place? Like, how have we forgotten so much of this?
Question: when you begin to oppress and suppress people's knowledge and their history, it robs the future generation of the information. The best way to steal the knowledge of who somebody really is to continuously change their information. You look at the Tower of Babel incident where Yahweh comes back, who's actually Enlil, and he sees that human beings are building this tower into heaven, duplicating a tower that's called a Du-Ran-Ki that the Anunnaki had built. They duplicated it. And he goes, oh my goodness, whatever they set their hearts to, they can achieve it. He said, wow, this is too powerful. My seed shall not abide in the land forever. His years shall be 120. So the first thing he did was he genetically modified chromosome number 2 and knocked this down to 120-year max. What does Harvard scientists say the maximum lifespan of a human being? 120 years under pristine condition. The next thing he did was he's divided people and separated and confused our languages. Oh no, I can't talk to Jesus. Jesus can't talk to Wendy. Wendy can't talk, you know what I'm saying? So now all of a sudden we get all these different races and languages going on, and we can't really communicate, so we can't collaborate. Our lifespans are short, but by the time we wake up, it's time to die, and we go right back into the cycle and start all over again. So they found a way to do that, and then to keep covering up the ancient history, keep covering up the real truth about who we are and where we came from. And after generation, it becomes a civilization of just people walking around with amnesia, right? Like Graham Hancock says.
Yeah, and Graham Hancock particularly points to the great cataclysms as part of the reason as well of this reset that happened where we're all sort of 1 minute, advanced civilization, and then right back to square one and starting again. And do you feel that that's part of the reason too?
That's also part of the reason. You look at the Younger Dryas incident, right? So you have the Younger Dryas. You're talking about right around the the Ice Age. So now we're going back 12, 13,000 years. All of a sudden, this gigantic asteroid crashes in to the Earth right above Syria, and all this ice melt happens, and all this ice turns into water. Now you've got a regional, globalized flood, not a global flood, but a regional flood in a part of the globe, coming all the way down, even out through Egypt, where the Sphinx is, and the evidence of this Younger Dryas is in the Sphinx enclosure, where you can clearly see the water damage. You can see how much water has passed through on the walls of the enclosure, and you can almost tell how many years it's taken for that erosion to happen. You're talking about right around the same time as the Younger Dryas incident. And so we're talking about a situation where we have physical evidence, water flowed down from this Younger Dryas and flooded out the entire region there where the Great Sphinx is located at Giza. And it's clear evidence that the Sphinx is not 5,000 years old. Because if it was, how did this water damage happen to a man-made built enclosure that predates the Ice Age? So we're talking about this Sphinx is much older, and again, more evidence that the history books are not accurate.
Yeah, that sort of brings us on to the pyramids, which I've always been fascinated by and always found very difficult to understand how they were built by the people. Even in school when I was like, I don't know, 8 years old, I was like, this doesn't, okay. But you said like there's water damage there. So do you know roughly what we could date the water damage to?
Yeah, roughly around 12 to 13,000 years. And that's coming from a professor, geologist, Dr. Robert Schoch. We're talking about a person who's still teaching in college right now, a real geologist that went to the university for that particular field, that's looking at this and saying, no, this evidence is pointing to here, and has taken samples and everything. And because of his dating of the age of this and being very vocal about it, he's pretty much banned from going back to Egypt.
And when it comes to the pyramids, I mean, Graham Hancock did a great job of explaining how unexplainable from his point of view it is that such massive heavy stones would be up so high, and he famously said if that was a ramp, you need a fucking big ramp, and it'd still be there to this day. So and I know that you've set tours for the pyramids and you've got such an interest in that. So what is your opinion of who built them, how they were built, and all of that?
Wow, the pyramid, first of all, when you stand next to the Great Pyramid, time slows down because it's a time dilation bubble. They knew all of this stuff. I mean, the Great Pyramid itself is a gigantic, multifunctional stone computer and power generator. It's got multiple functions. And so when you begin to analyze it as a technological device, not as a monument, all of a sudden, all these question marks start popping up. And when you begin to start looking for answers to those question marks and start studying engineering books, you start to see that we're looking at a real machine, and it's so ingenious how they built this. There's a couple ways that it could happen. First of all, it never was a mud ramp. Mud ramps is a complete farce because you would need more mass than the pyramid in mud.
Yeah,
that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
right. You're not going to and when you stand next to these megalithic blocks, you're going to realize you can't put them on top of tree logs. You got to go get the tree logs from Turkey and bring them all the way down to Egypt, and then you got to get these stones and put them on top and roll them in the sand. I mean, come on, more ridiculous. The more asinine it begins to sound. But when you start to look at some of the writings, and you hear that Thoth talks about a couple of different things. First, it was a quarry that they used to harvest some of these stones. And you can see that, and you can witness it, you can go there and see that. He had some type of a gravity control system which alters the atomic structure or the orientation, of the atoms in the stone to get it to be extremely light. Not weightless, but much lighter. That's number one. Number two, Thoth talks about combining photons, or light, he says light, with frequency, cymatic frequencies. Now, that sounds like, magic. But 2 years ago, university in Europe, two scientists got together, and for the first time, they used photons and vibrations to create solid matter. So we're just now rediscovering what already happened in ancient times. So some of these stones are manifested, as Thoth says, through light waves and frequencies, and some are harvested, depending on the usage and what was being done. Another thing that's interesting is if you look at the construction of the Great Pyramid, you begin to realize that it's also an astronomical timepiece. And what it does is it breaks down the distance from the Earth to the moon, the distance from the Earth to the sun, the circumference of the sun, the circumference of the Earth, scaled down model of Earth itself. If you scale it up 43,200 times, it fits inside the Earth perfectly and touches all corners.
And then I switched to Liberty Mutual and saved hundreds. I know.
Also, by calculating the stones, it can give you the days in the year, the tropical year, the sidereal year. It can give you the speed of our sun around the Milky Way galaxy and even the speed of our galaxy around the local clusters. And when you analyze Giza from above, you realize that it's a star chart of the inner solar system planets. Okay, so you're talking about Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars with the sun in the middle. And then also you begin to realize, man, wait a minute, what's going on here? This thing really is giving you the average height of every peak on Earth. The average height. To do that today, we would need a satellite orbiting in a polar orbit. As the Earth spins on its axis, we would be scanning and taking topographical data, stitching it together, sending it into a computer. That computer will now count all the peaks and then divide them to get the average height. That means they had some type of satellite technology, and then they incorporated all of that in the Great Pyramid. About a super advanced race of space-faring people, not people that were slaves and all this other, chicken bones and copper chisels and all this crazy elephants and tree log rollers and mud. That's all a farce.
It's funny because I know people who've actually just been in the pyramid and inside just for a tour and said it feels like you're in a machine. It doesn't feel like you're in an object that was designed to have tour guides take you through. Like they literally had to force stairs there, and it's not comfortable, and it isn't made for that. It clearly is, So what do you make of the fact that, like, the Egyptians themselves, who kind of moved in, so to speak, have then kind of etched their signature on someone else's work, and apparently they've redone the faces on the Sphinx and stuff. Like, do you think that they are taking credit for what came before?
No doubt about it. The dynastic Egyptians inherited what was already there. The Mayan culture inherited what was already there. The Aztecs, who came later than the Mayans, inherited what was already there, left behind by the Mayans, who found what was left behind by the Teotihuacans, which means the city of Tahuti, which means the city of Thoth in Mesoamerica. So all these cultures inherited existing ancient megalithic structures and advanced cities that were left behind after this thing called the Second Pyramid War, where they released weapons that they called weapons of mass destruction, WMDs, that were hidden in the mountain and were forbidden to be used based on what had happened on their home planet in their ancient times. Somebody smuggled them to this planet when they evacuated and hid them in the mountain, and eventually a future generation, offspring of that person, used them in a war. They created something called the evil wind, which swept across the land and killed the black-faced people. It says, that's the exact term it says, the black-faced people died, the animals died, people's hair and nails were falling out, eyes were bleeding. You're talking about radiation poisoning. You're talking about radiation sickness. So we're talking about evidence of an ancient war that happened. So it all comes together, it all begins to make a lot of sense when you start looking at all these little facts and piecing all the puzzle together. You see what really happened in the ancient past.
I think the hardest thing for just regular people like myself to wrap my head around is we automatically think we are here now, therefore we must be the most advanced thing that's ever existed. And just to sort of forget that is the healthiest way to sort of digest this information. And I've seen you talking about some of those structures around the pyramids, and that looked like launch pads. Yeah, and that was quite a fascinating thing as well. And so just so I'm clear, you think that the Anunnaki specifically are responsible for the pyramids?
I think that the Anunnaki specifically, who are actually the Atlantean culture, are responsible for the pyramids. In the Emerald Tablet, Thoth comes to the land of Kemet. He lands his ship. He descends from the sky down near an ancient temple that's coming up out of the mud. So it's not a ship that's sailing on the ocean, clearly. I mean, it's very clear. Then his crew that he took with him come there to help him rebuild the land of Kem. They said they stayed there for a time and time again, so they stayed there for a very long time to rebuild. Once they got it rebuilt, he tells his crew that he brought with him to spread out around the planet and duplicate what we did here. All of a sudden, pyramids and civilization pop up out of nowhere. Right.
Have you seen
These are the people.
The pyramid that's, well, they haven't uncovered it because it's covered in earth, but there's a gigantic pyramid I see in a video on recently where you can see it from a satellite. Do you know which one I'm on about?
It's the one I'm going to go see actually in December.
Right. It looks gigantic, and that clearly those right angles, they don't look like they were created by nature. It looks like a pyramid hidden underneath the earth, right?
Sure. And they just found over 200 pyramids buried in the sands of Giza with ground-penetrating radar from a satellite. Wow. So they're everywhere. And if you go to Mexico City,
they were in Antarctica or something like that, right?
Antarctica, they're everywhere. And the Antarctic pyramid is the super megalithic. It makes the Great Pyramid look like it's tiny. It's a super massive pyramid. Supposedly there's some type of exotic energy coming out of that. You go into the Atlantic Ocean, the center of the Bermuda Triangle, there's a pyramid down there, still emitting some type of exotic energy from the apex. That's what is the cause for all of these disappearances and anomalies and time anomalies and everything else. If you take a line and you're able to go down to the center of that apex and draw a line straight through the center of the Bermuda Triangle and come out on the other side of the Earth, you come out at the Devil's Triangle, right at the Yonaguni Pyramid in Japan, the Dragon's Triangle, I'm sorry, where there's also been disappearances and all kind of apparitions and so forth. So we're talking about an interconnected grid of pyramids that also duplicated, or also had a job as portals or wormholes or something that connected different places on Earth. People would go almost instantaneously, kind of like teleportation. All this stuff was happening in the ancient past, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, when you showed me the bird's eye view from above the Egyptian pyramids and how the solar system fits perfectly onto that was where I was like, yeah, you didn't do that by accident. Like,
no.
it is mind-blowing stuff here. And I want to move on to the Bible a little bit, because there was, you know, I grew up hearing little Bible stories at school, innocently, just, yeah, okay, that sounds cool. But when you started telling me, like, yeah, some of this has really been copied from, like, word for word almost, from thousands of years ago, from other scriptures and stuff that you've been reading. So, so Adam and Eve, you kind of covered that. Adam and Eve were the first of many of this new version of us. So that is kind of true.
Absolutely. So yeah, they're the new version. They're the ones that were okay. Now they can mate on their own. So if you start reading these texts, you find out that the Garden of Eden was like a giant laboratory, but there was like a mating house, like how you have horses in stalls and you mate them at certain times of the day. We were being treated like animals, like literally. They would have men on one side and women on the other side. And then there were specific mating times. And you got in trouble if you didn't mate at the right time. And if you tried to mate out of your turn, you also got in trouble. What's interesting is there's guards at the gate in the Bible. There's guards at the gate in the book of Adam, which is an apocrypha text left out of the Bible. There's guards at the gate in the Sumerian tablets. What in the hell do we need guards for with weapons? They all have weapons. Why would they have weapons? What are they doing there? Why does God need guards with weapons when he can just think things into existence? You see, when you start analyzing this for what it really is, you begin to realize, wait a minute, something else is going on. Why do they call Yahweh Satan, the Lord of Eden, E-D-I-N, in the ancient text? Because he really is Satan. That's why. That's why my most famous video that I did is, could the God of the Bible be Satan? I break it all the way down. So we're talking about two people that were just the first two of the most genetically modified for the purpose of mating, creating, and building a slave race on this planet. That means everyone on this planet was a slave.
And now, a word from our sponsors. I want to thank our sponsor, Ground News, the best place to do your research for anything, even UFOs, apparently. Now, this website is super easy to use, and they give you different viewpoints on all of the news. So when you search a topic, they take news stories from all over the internet and put them into one nice and easy to use list. They give you key info on who the publishers are, what their political biases are, and how factual their reporting practices are, which is really important. So when I searched UFOs, they've given me over 300 articles here, and they actually have this really great feature called the media bias breakdown of this topic in general, and you can see it's very evenly split, left 33, centre 35, the right 32%, which is fine for UFOs, but let's say you're searching news on Donald Trump, that media bias breakdown is going to really help you understand why people are saying what they're saying and what direction they're really coming from. So let's take, for example, scientists call fraud on aliens presented at Mexican Congress, which is a bit gutting, if I'm honest. I was hoping they were real. You can see the breakdown here of the total news sources, how many are leaning left, how many are leaning right, and the centre, when it was last updated, and the bias distribution of 60% central. And they even show you exactly where these news sources sit within their political sway. Obviously, one of the most important things for me is the factuality of these articles, and you can see here 85%, which is considered high, which means we're getting reliable news here. And in particular with UFOs, you want to know, like, is this an independent writer, or are they employed by the government? And as you can see, it even shows it here. The government of Singapore, for example, wrote this article, so you're completely clued up from Ground News, from the ground up. So big thanks to Ground News. You can be a subscriber to them now and get the highest quality news possible by clicking the link in the description below. That's ground.news/TG, and you can get your subscription for as little as $1 a month. Or you can take advantage of their biggest sale of the year through my link for 40% off Vantage, which is the subscription I have. The link is in the description below. Thanks to them, but for now, enjoy the podcast. David Icke definitely touched on a little bit of that in our interview, where he said, like, I think people are worshipping the wrong God. You know, like, if you look at the way God is depicted in the Old Testament and the things he comes out with, is that a benevolent, soft, loving, caring God like you'd want to believe him to be? Not really. No. David said to me, it's the gods. You need to remember that. And by gods, we mean the aliens who are actually in control. In terms of Jesus, you've talked a little bit about the real story of Jesus. Can you talk a bit more about that and explain that to me?
Oh, man. Sure, absolutely. First of all, Jesus, his real name is Yeshua, right? Yeshua. That's his real name. And he was a real person. Turned, from the age of 12 to 32, he disappears from the biblical text. He's gone missing. Where does he go? Well, he ends up in Egypt. And I just took 130 people just a few weeks ago to the place where he actually laid his head. There's a shrine there in Egypt, and there's a map there that shows all the places that him and his mother visited while in Egypt and stayed as they were hiding from the Romans. And so in Egypt, he was learning the Egyptian mysteries. Okay? And then he leaves there. Eventually, at some point, he heads to Tibet. He's now learning Qigong and Reiki and all these other energy healings and so forth with his hands, and that's been confirmed by the Dalai Lama. Then he's coming down back in through India, learning the mystic arts, reincarnation all the way back. If anybody really reads the book of Revelation, they realize that it's a reincarnation story of flesh and blood, because it says you're coming back in a real body, not some light body. You're going to be in a real body, and you're going to have a new name. It's a reincarnation story. But nonetheless, he's teaching this, and he was a real person. In my opinion, learning the ancient mysteries from both the Atlantean, which is who was the originator of the mystery schools, number one, that had lasted for so many thousands of years. But also, there's another possibility. It's just a hypothesis. He talks about being able to incarnate at will. He talks about using bodies to come back, bodies that he clones himself or creates himself. He says he creates these bodies to come back in and walk around. Could he somehow say, you know what, I'd like to know, what is it like to have the human experience? And allows himself to come back through the womb of a human being, retaining full memory, so that he can have the experience of coming through the womb and suffering as what we call a normal person, or what he used to call the little people, right? It's a possibility. Just a hypothesis, something to ponder or think about, but it's pretty interesting that Mary's mother was also a virgin birth, so she's also in vitro fertilization.
Where did you hear that Mary was also a virgin birth?
That's in the Apocrypha text.
Wow.
So when you read the Apocrypha, you begin to find this out. If you read the Gospel of the Holy 12, you find out where Jesus disappeared to when he disappears from the Bible, the Gospel of the Holy 12.
again, they accidentally on purpose left this information out of the Bible too.
Yeah, they do seem to have been selective. From everything I'm learning about what you're saying, it seems like they pick and choose what sort of matches up with the story they want to tell. So, in regards to the story of is Jesus the Son of God, you think he may be connected in some way to Thoth?
God, you're talking about these people, and David Icke was right, God's with an S, because in the Bible, everywhere where you see the word God singular, that's a mistranslation by accident on purpose. The original term is gods with an S, and Elohim is also plural gods. So we're talking about gods, and we're not talking anywhere in that Bible about the creator of the actual universe itself. Nowhere does it ever mention the real creator of the universe. That book is about flesh and blood people, men that put their pants on one leg at a time, just like women. So it's really unfortunate, but these guys, these people were advanced. They had advanced knowledge, advanced spiritual concepts, advanced technology. That's who these people were learning from. And in my father's house, there are many mansions where they're combining their super duper massive spaceships, in outer space. Yeah, I just think that he was part human, part Anunnaki, more like a quote-unquote demigod, in my opinion. But what's interesting is a very small text was found years ago called the Book of Jesus' Wife, which is located at the Harvard Seminary. And in the Sinai Bible, he was never crucified. I think that's a fabrication made up by the Roman Church. They added their pagan doctrine and everything else to the Bible too, so they can say, you know what, we're tired of it. Let's just go collaborate with them and collect all the money. We'll take the tithes and offerings and we'll give them the taxes. I'm gonna dip on them. They'll be so dumb they won't even realize it, and that's what happened.
So the Roman Catholic Church will basically rework the story so that it sounds nicer for them. And if I'm not mistaken, Jesus, the physical version of Jesus that we see in Brazil, for example, he didn't really look like that.
No. That's a Pope's son. That face, that's Caesar Borgia. Caesar Borgia, who was a murdering killer, who was sleeping with his sister, killed his brother because he wanted his brother's power and rights to rule and so forth underneath his dad, who was a pope. And he ordered all the paintings to be, to have his face to be depicted as him. And it just caught on, and it continued on for, obviously, till this current day. But yeah, the real Yeshua was a Middle Eastern or African man, not the depiction that we see. So even in that, people are praying to a false image. The Bible says don't pray to false gods. Yet they're praying to a man, a real man. So they're praying to his image, which is not even a right image. So that's even a false image. And then they're calling on his name, which is not even his name. The J is a recent letter. The J was in like the 1500s, I believe, or something, 1540 or whatever it was. Don't quote me exactly, but J wasn't there. They're screaming out Isus, which means Hail Zeus. This is why calling on their name has no real power. You're not even calling on the person who's supposed to be the Son of God. And what he says in the Bible is,
we're all worshiping a guy who murdered someone, essentially.
They're murdering a guy who murdered somebody, and they're calling on Zeus at the same time. So their prayers are all mixed up. They have no power. If you look at the state of the world today, okay, 85% of the world is Christian. 85%. And all those prayers are going up night in, night out, day in, day out. Trillions of prayers a day because people are praying multiple times a day, times by billions. All of a sudden, you begin to realize these prayers ain't being answered. We should be living in the golden age right now.
Yeah.
How come the golden age isn't happening?
And when you say
because these prayers aren't working.
We're saying Jesus means Jesus. Zeus being one of the Anunnaki, I'm assuming.
One of the Anunnaki.
Yeah. And
praying to the Anunnaki.
Like those Greek gods and all of that. Is this kind of what we're referring to as well in that sense?
Yeah, the Greek gods are the old Anunnaki, the newer version of the Anunnaki pantheon, so to speak. So you just convert their names over from Sumerian, and they all took them over and converted them into Greek names. Like Mercury is actually Thoth, for example, right? Poseidon is Enki. So you start to see this correlation between they're still talking about the pantheon of Greece is still talking about the Anunnaki, and people are still praying to these Anunnaki gods till this very day. Matter of fact, every time you say amen, you're saying thank you to Amun Ra, who's also known as Marduk, the Jewish Torah. That's in the Bible. You can look up the name. Just do a search on that name, Marduk. Oh, wow. Then you find out that Marduk is actually Amun-Ra from ancient Egypt. And he ordered that every person give thanks under his name when they pray or anything that they get. So it's really a moon, but it became Amen much later, obviously over iterations of verbages and people speaking. But you're giving thanks to a brutal, killing, murdering ruler every time you say amen. This is why people have no idea, because when you're praying, you're trying to cast a spell. That's really what it is. You want to alter your reality to your benefit by saying these words to a deity on the outside of you, and you're hoping that something magical happens and turns things around. That's casting a spell. You can cast a spell, right, because you're calling on deities that don't have any power.
It is quite amazing when you think we've all been saying, like, I remember being a little kid at school saying, amen. Like, you know, you're like, friend, like, you know, when they tell you to, and I never thought, why am I saying the words amen? Like, ever. And you've mentioned Satan or Satan a few times now. What can you tell me about him?
Oh, he's an evil dude. His name was actually Enlil from the ancient Sumerian tablets. If you read the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Book of Deuteronomy in the Bible, you're going to go, oh my goodness, this is who I've been praying to? This guy would say in the Epic of Gilgamesh, the humans are making too much clamor. They're just too loud. Go kill them all. So he would send his military out to go kill like hundreds or even thousands of humans to get it more quiet outside. Just feel too much noise. Or he would say, the people over here, he had this thing called an all-seeing eye. It can let him see population densities on the planet, okay? On a crystal tablet, he calls it. He says, you know, people over here, they're just unruly. He would send his people to go spray their crops and dry them out. So now we're talking about chemtrails in Sumerian tablets so they can starve to death. They're starving to death. They'll shut up now, right? And he would even spread plagues. He would go spread plagues to kill. So we're talking about a brutal, evil dude. And so he didn't like what happened when his brother Enki, Thoth's Enki's son, when Enki went into the Garden of Eden and started talking to these people and telling them how powerful they are, that, you know, that they're not animals.
I think that's everything cleaned up. I'm out of here, bro. I'll get with you next time, man. You have a good evening. Peace.